What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Perfectly Blended podcast. On today's episode, we have a special interview coming up. And when's that coming up?
Right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and His ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's show. I am your host, one of those, Josh, and I'm here with the always Miss Beautiful Christy. How are you, love?
I'm awesome.
She's awesome. She had a nap. She's good. That's always good. If you can have an adult nap, it's like the greatest thing that's ever happened.
It is. I woke up. I didn't even know what time or day it was.
She's like, oh my gosh, it's in the morning.
I'm like, it's 5 a.m. And then I'm like, oh no, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah, it's dark anyway because we're in Michigan and it's that time of year, so it's stupid, right? So before we jump in and tell everybody about who we're going to be talking to today, do you have anything you want to say?
Not really. I mean, my foot is really doing good. I was able to take a shower for the first time in 17 weeks.
That's scary, I know.
So that's why my hair looks actually so glorious, because I was able to wash it not in the sink.
She did bathe, just so we're clear on that. I mean, she didn't go 17 weeks without
almost
cleaning herself. Okay, just so we're clear on that. Little flies buzzing around.
I know.
No, none of that. Okay, so on today's episode, we were able to be on their podcast before, and today we're having them on ours. Jen and Bill Rogers we have on today. They're podcasters. They are a blended family. He's a pastor. And it's going to be awesome. So this is an amazing interview that we have today. So that's coming up right now. We want to introduce you to them. All right, everybody, I want to personally welcome Bill and Jen to the show. Guys, welcome.
Oh,
thank you.
Nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's so great. We had an opportunity, just so everybody knows, to be on Bill and Jen's podcast a while ago. So we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to have them on. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today. We're going to let our viewers and our listeners get to know you a little bit. So before we kind of jump in and dive into some of the juicy stuff, do us a favor and let everybody know a little bit about who you guys are, how you got together. Like, tell us, fill us in a little bit on
how long you've been blended.
Yeah.
Oh, blended. Well, we've been blended for...
From the beginning. Eight and a half years.
We were not blended from the beginning. We were dating from the beginning.
Right.
But we've been married for a little over 8 years. Yes. And we met on... Christian Mingle.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Awesome.
We did.
That is awesome. I didn't know that. That's
I was
fantastic.
on it for 2 days. And I met my match. So enough of that.
Well, you are a pastor, so God looks favorably on you. That's why.
Right.
Could be said, I guess. It was time. It was
in 2 days, you'll meet your match. So it was said.
Never know. Actually, that's part of your story.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was on. Can I say this? I don't know if you have to bleep this out. It's not the F-bomb, that you bleep out, but it's match.com. So I was on that, and it was just not the ideal experience. It's not like Christian. There's just not a whole lot of Christian options on there, and so I left that and I went on to Christian Mingle, and then he pinged me, smiled at me, winked at me, whatever, and I blew him off. I'm like, seriously? If all you can do is ping, then I'm not interested. And then
next day I sent you a pretty long letter. Yeah, I mean, you first get on, you kind of scrolling through, right? Ping, ping, so you can go.
Wait a minute. How many women did you ping? Oh, good.
2 days worth.
I don't think that's 2 days worth. There you go. That's right, Josh. 2 days worth. Okay, so he may have pinged more than 2 women, but that's really not the point of the story, I guess.
He only wrote one.
And then he wrote me a story. He only wrote one. Well, I don't know. And I'm not going to put him on the spot right now because we probably want to have a conversation more than 2 minutes. You probably want more than 2 minutes of recording before we go to the back room and sort this out offline.
Bathroom talk.
It's a bathroom talk, yeah.
Hey, here's the thing that we learned actually in this going back and forth is that we learned a lot about each other in sending messages back and forth. And the one thing that sticks out to me, do you remember when I said to you, the shocking thing about divorce is all the ancillary losses
Yeah, sure.
that you
Mhm.
find out who your true friends are, or you find
Mhm.
out that your true friends don't know what to do with you, and divorce and all of that. I remember that being a significant part of our conversation, that we were pretty honest up front. I mean, I was in my 40s. I was like, seriously, I know what I want. And I had a list.
We
And
asked each other right up front, am I talking to you or your representative? Because we had this thing, when you're dating, your representative shows up,
Oh yeah.
has to. So we would have that little joke, is that you or your representative? And
the
we got through that
representatives
pretty
are
quickly.
long gone. Okay. They have flown the coop. The
So you think.
representatives.
No.
He's like, "Mwah, ah, 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 ah."
Love it. Love it. What about
anyway,
kids?
that's
What
how we
about kids?
met.
Tell us about your kids.
We have 6.
Who has
Yeah,
6?
Oh, together. We have 6 together.
How's it divided up
Yes,
though?
we have 2 girls, 2 boys, and 2 dogs.
Ah.
That's what I say.
So we have the 2 girls are both Jennifer's, and they're exactly 10 years older than the boys who are mine. And the dogs, they're both of ours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the dogs are also 8. They're our blended markers.
They're actually 10
Oh,
years
wow.
younger than the kids.
They are. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And just for the record, like everybody could guess, they're the easiest to blend. Dogs, get dogs. Like if you need a break from the heart of blending with the kids, just get a couple dogs. It's a lot easier.
That's
They're
so
like, see, children, sit down. Do you see how easy this is?
Right.
Pay attention to how the dogs act and respond.
Right. Right. They don't talk. They're these.
Well, they
We
do,
give them
but-
treats. They're fine.
That's right. That's right.
So how old are your children now? So we have a little bit of perspective on how old they were when you got together.
So 32 and 27. Those are, see, he has to confirm my kids. You would think it would be the reverse,
She's
but I
about
always
to turn
do.
32. Is 31
No.
about to turn?
Oh yeah, she's about to turn 32, and 27.
And then exactly 10 years opposite, it'd be 21, and actually just turned 18 yesterday. So
Yes.
So, okay, so real quick here, just so, because I'm really curious about this. So, Bill, I would apparently, your children lived with you guys when you guys just got married. And Jen, did either of your daughters live with you guys at all during that time?
No, they didn't. My youngest daughter was in college about 20 miles down the road. And so she went to Mizzou for her undergrad, and she would come home pretty frequently until she didn't come home frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she spent a little bit of time living with us, just a little bit of
Yeah.
time when she was between gigs, as it were.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So how often did you have your boys?
Empty nester.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was gonna. Yeah. So how often did you have your boys in the beginning?
Initially, when we first met and when we were married, it was every other weekend. And then I petitioned and actually sued for full joint custody, which took about 2 years. And then we got them week on, week off.
Love
good.
it. That's fantastic.
Good,
How
yeah.
did that work for you, Jen?
Well,
it's one of the reasons why we're here.
I remember.
Let's hear it.
I remember saying that God gave me girls for a reason. Okay. I remember saying that because I thought I had girls nailed. And then I had all this testosterone in the house, and I didn't really understand it. Yeah, I didn't really understand it. And it worked really well for about the first week. I think about the first week. And then it pretty much went downhill from there. So I thought I was doing all the right things. So we set up a room. They got to pick out colors, bedspreads, all of that. His ex-wife even came. I let her come in the house so she could see, that I was a good person. I invited her out to lunch before we got married so she could see I was a good person. But I don't know. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't do it that way at
Yeah.
all. Like I just didn't know. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And I think transitioning from being an empty nester and then having the boys in the house, and I had personal transitions with a job as well, that I was unemployed shortly after we got together. And so that was really challenging too. So I had an identity crisis going on before I became a stepmom, and had a stepmom identity crisis.
Mhm.
So I was in crisis, woman in crisis, and didn't really understand all of the things that were going on. So it was really hard. And I basically hated my life.
Mhm.
That's how it went.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was on the road a lot at the time. I
Yeah.
was working. I was a regional vice president for a large financial company. I was on the road a lot, and I would come home. I didn't understand all the crisis. I can be honest with that. We'd talk on the phone every night, and sometimes for a long, long time. I mean, there were other issues too. I mean, my ex-wife was very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
And I would say I didn't deal with her properly at first, because I didn't recognize that she still saw herself married to me, in the sense that she still thought she had power over me, not
Mhm.
just the children. And I had to break that. So that took a while. In fact, you might even say it's still going on at some levels. But, we do much, much better. I just found out over time that I do better without a lot of contact with her, because she really is a controller, and in a passive aggressive way. And that would drive Jennifer crazy really badly. And the reason why it drove us so crazy is because of the impact on the boys,
Mm.
right? The boys would come back to the house, and it would be like starting again.
Yeah.
We'd be starting all over again every time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was very difficult. And frankly, I look back at that. I can't say I ever got to the point that Jennifer got to, in terms of despair or in terms of anger even.
Packing my suitcase up and going to the hotel. Yeah.
But yeah, you did that
I
once.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're your
But
kids, so it is different, It is different with that.
yes, yes. Now, her kids were different in the sense that at first, when we first met, I felt accepted, well, by one of them. And
Yeah,
then it flipped.
Yeah, it was
Then
so
it
strange.
flipped after
Mhm.
after the marriage. It flipped, and it's that way to this day, really. So, um, you I guess you learn what you have to
Yeah.
roll with, because there are some things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say, and I think you'd agree with this, because of the difficulties we went through, that's what brought us to this moment. That's what brought us to where we are,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I agree. Josh and I dealt with similar things, and I think I mean, as far as ex-wives go, his is awful, and most of them are. But I'm also an ex-wife, and I think that I'm amazing.
Mhm.
Like, I left my ex-husband alone. Like, you want to come get the boys? Come get the boys. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, I don't care about who you're dating. I don't care. And when we got divorced, I'm like, don't care about child support. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, I just wanted a divorce. So I was he's lucky. I'm a pretty amazing ex-wife.
She is the most amazing ex-wife of all time. She needs a shirt, actually.
She's a pretty good wife to you as well, I hear. So she's got this wife thing down.
She does. She's winning at life in general. She's just got it all mastered.
I love it.
She's the best worker.
Oh my gosh, babe. Okay. No, they are.
Do you want to say that I think that negative ex-wife stories, obviously they rise to the top, but I think there are a lot of good ex-wives out there. So I don't think you're one and only, Christy, but you may be his one and only.
Yeah.
But I do. I don't want to sweep them all underneath the rug, but gosh, the ones that are not, it is really challenging, from parental alienation just to being a butthead. I mean, it's the whole gamut.
And you don't understand it when you when you first enter that blend, you're saying, oh, we're going to nail this. I mean, we've been parents before. We've been married before. Shoot, we've done this before. We're going to nail this. We have, and you have no idea what's coming. And I can tell you, I mean, there was one day we can look back. We've actually got stones, Ebenezer stones marked in various places. And there was one time I came back from a meeting with my attorney, and it was when we were doing the custody battle, and it was hellacious. I mean, I was done.
Yeah.
And she picked me up, actually, and we went out, and it was a funny night. And we actually have some funny stories now because I was done.
It started with a shot of tequila at the bar.
Just get me elsewhere. Now I'm a Christian pastor, so be careful about what you
I'm
done.
Yeah, I get it.
He's like, I was a different person back then.
So, you guys serve I don't know. You guys serve blended families today. I mean, I understand the struggles, but like why help serve blended families? That's a big commitment. We understand. So, why serve blended families today?
Because we are one.
I think it's like you guys and a lot of other couples that are serving that we couldn't find people who could help us. And we felt so alone. And we didn't really understand what was going on. And it's when you find your people, you feel so much better. And so I think it started out accidentally, I think, and now we do it on purpose. So starting a podcast a couple of years ago, that wasn't a strategic decision in a 5-year plan or anything. I just sat down at my desk one day and said, I think I'm going to start a podcast. I think this is in line with my entrepreneurial journey, even though I really didn't know. And the podcast has transitioned a lot since the first record date in September of 2020. But it really helped me learn what God wanted me to learn about being a step parent. And it wasn't all about Jen. And it took me a while to figure that out, that I wasn't the only one hurting, that the kids were hurting too. And so God really used the podcast initially for me to heal personally so that I could help other people heal. And now, I mean, really, I would say we're on a mission to prevent generational redivorce.
Right. Yeah.
Because divorce it's horrible. It's horrible for everybody.
Yeah.
I would tell you guys, as you know, I have been a long time a minister, and it's pretty scandalous when a minister goes through divorce. And that was very, very difficult for me. And I would tell you, I had one particular friend who came alongside me and stayed alongside me through the point when I was at my lowest. And this story I just told you about going out and, getting a little involved with with liquor that night, whatever. I mean, I was at my lowest. I really was. And this was a gentleman who came alongside and basically all along the way he taught me, you're not who other people are telling you you are. God says you're something more, and he's going to carry you through this. And he just happened to be pastoring a church at the time. He was a minister as well, and was a good friend of mine before I was divorced, through the divorce, and certainly even more so after the divorce. And
that's awesome.
And this is the guy that really brought me back into the ministry. And that was something that God used him to do. He brought me into his church as a worship leader, and then he got out and he said, all right, you're going to be the guy. And they called me, and that got me back involved with what I was called to do all along. That confidence that came through that helped me to understand there are way more people like me than there are the perfect people that people think are out there. They're not out there.
Yep.
And we just realized, through our own journey that, almost half of all the couples that we see coming through the church doors are blended, divorced, hurting in some fashion. If we don't reach out and minister to them, who will?
Right.
That's been my philosophy, and that's why our church is an open door for for divorced and blended families.
Love that. Love that.
That's
I
a
do
long
too.
answer.
No, I love it.
Yeah, that is the answer though.
Yeah.
I mean, so talking, Bill, about being a pastor and having experience, how do you feel like that changes the way that you, shepherd, the flock that God has given you? How do you feel like, even when it comes to non-blended families, the nuclear families, how do you feel like being and going through this has really altered or changed the way that you pastor?
Yeah, because like you said, you're trying to prevent, which Josh and I try to prevent too, nuclear marriages from getting divorced, because it's like divorce is hard and it's nasty and everyone grieves. So just because you accept blended families doesn't mean you promote divorce, and that's a hard thing, for some churches to understand.
Right. Right.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Christy. And I would tell you, I mean, one of the things that I have done is I have gone back to school to get my doctorate. And one of the reasons why I want it is because I want to put my voice into the academic sphere to teach exactly that.
Yeah.
To say, we need to understand as churches that there are two sides. And I think we talked about this when you were on our podcast. There are two sides to divorce, this side and that side. When you're on this side of divorce, everyone's like, don't get there. Don't get there. I mean, if you're really following God, you want to say, don't get there. But after someone's crossed the threshold, that's done. Now they need comfort. Now they need strength. Now they need a place to belong. And that's the difference. I feel like I talk to a lot more pastors now and just kind of educate them or caution them. Hey, you need to be aware. Half the people in your congregation are dealing with these issues. And if you don't deal with them, they're going to go somewhere that will. And it might not be the church.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Jen, how do you feel your role as a pastor's wife and your venture down the podcasting and supporting blended family, how do you feel like that impacts your local church? How you take a part in that?
I think it raises awareness of, really, I want to say, the power of coaching. So there are a lot of people who don't understand what coaching can do for you from a life coach. And I will say I was one of those people. The first time that I heard somebody say, hey, I hired a life coach, I kind of made fun and thought, well, that's ridiculous. What good is a life coach?
Right.
And then I experienced coaching and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. And so, in fact, by the end of this year, my goal is to get my certification. So I have 1 more hour in a classroom and 3 more mentor hours of coaching, and then I'll actually be certifiable. So look out, people, I'll be certifiable.
Love it.
And so having that and sharing that, it's really helped me relate to people it helps me listen better and really to hear their heart and to share then what I have experienced when they ask, or to offer some sort of opportunity for them to be heard, to feel heard. Because really what everybody wants at the end of the day is to feel heard. As far as the pastor's wife part goes, like if a bunch of women are in a room and you call for the pastor's wives, I'll still be sitting down. Oh, wait, that's me.
Yeah.
I think I'm supposed to go over there. So that's really an identity that I don't think I've really taken on in that sense. Although interestingly enough, over the past couple, it's been a month.
Yeah,
now,
you're a
maybe about
leader
month.
of pastors' wives now.
But over the past month, I've been writing in my journal, God, will you reveal to me what it means to be a pastor's wife? What does that look like? Because I don't really know what that looks like.
And
So
yet you're an amazing pastor's wife and
Aw.
an amazing coach. But that's something, that's been a very, you talk about getting side benefits, as a husband. I watch her going through these processes, but I get the benefit of those too. And it's really exciting.
yeah. So,
It's funny how you beg the question, what does a pastor's wife look like? I think and from this side of the screen, I think it's somebody that is searching to know what that means to connect and listen. I think that's what it is. I think so many times we see, in the Christian community that the pastor's wife plays a very particular, almost fit in a box role. And I think that is the role that we're looking to not play as spearheading, in a blended family world. We're really trying to push through, which is, you guys know just as much as we do how hard it is, to be in this space. And I think what people are looking for is exactly what you said, Jen. They're looking for a me too, number one, hey, I get it, sister, brother. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And they're really looking for someone that's going to sit and listen and not necessarily preach at them, or, just point to the Bible and say, well, this is where you went wrong right here. Not that there's not a time and place for that, but they're really looking for something relational, and I think that's powerful because we learn so much through adversity, and whether we want to be divorced or not, we are. And there's so much to be learned through that and coached and helped through. So,
well, I experienced a small little taste of it, very, very minuscule. And because he officiates weddings, and I'm standing there last year, and he's at this wedding, and I'm just standing in the back. It was at the rehearsal or whatever. You guys rehearsing.
Yeah.
And I'm standing in the back of the room and everything. And I see people, they're talking to him, and then everyone's kind of looking back. And I'm just like, what are they looking at? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, people think that I'm a pastor's wife. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm like, I have to make sure I'm always smiling.
Well,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just so funny because if he ever became a pastor, I think I would feel the same way because I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, because people look at pastors' wives differently. They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, they do. And here's the thing about it is they almost expect to get a 2-for-1. You call the pastor and you automatically get the pastor and his wife as full-time Christian servants, missionaries to the church, if you will.
True.
But we have to teach that that's not the case.
Yeah.
We have to teach that she is a church member.
We're not teaching that by what we're doing. I'm just saying that's not going down.
I mean, we obviously, there's always going to be that.
Well, our pastor's the same way. I mean, his wife has a full-time job.
Yeah.
I'm going to expect her sometimes to do things. Believe it or not, as a pastor, I'm like, hey, you know what? We need you to do this or whatever.
Well, we can talk about it.
It does. It goes with the territory, but I think the pastor has to set that expectation. Honestly, he does. He has to be able to get in there and say, look, my wife's not a twofer.
Yeah. So speaking about, we were on you guys' podcast before. We brought this up earlier, but you guys' podcast, when we were on it, just like a few short months ago. Well, I don't even think it was that long ago. It was named something different, and now it's been changed. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Drip the gossip. You want to hear it.
We married. Yeah. You get married and you change your name, right?
I got fired.
And I loved the name. I loved you guys' name.
StepFamily Mission Possible. That's what it was. Yeah. And I suppose if you look for it that way, you still might find it, but it's going to come up as Bold and Blended Stepmoms. Because here's the deal. Most often, couples are not going to come and hire a coach together. It's going to be the woman who's going to let the guy know we're actually going to go do this thing. Yeah. And so I felt a little disconnected in some ways that I couldn't hone in and talk to that one person, if you will. And although we had fun and we learned a lot actually about each other and about podcasting, I realized that I actually needed to be talking to the women. And since I pulled the trigger and changed everything, it's really taken off. Like it's grown 130%. We have a really live, active Facebook group where women are coming forward and feel safe to talk about some of their concerns. I just got done with a beta workshop that I'm going to turn into a course where women can go and take it online. So a self-paced course. And I know it's good. And I know it works because of the women who were brave enough to go through it and test it out as we worked our way through. And so for me, when I see women say yes to the gifts that God has given them and really fully embrace and become confident in who God says they are, that's just a high for me. I love that. And I've been able to experience that so much, just since I transitioned. And it's been a really great experience. And the timing, I guess we didn't even realize it, but the timing meshed with him being in seminary.
Right.
I see a lot of the back of his head now. There's more hair back there. uh, but it's worked out, and it's just been a really good thing. So it's Bold and Blended Stepmoms, and we stayed at StepFamilyPodcast.com. So you can still find us there. It's just that you just see me and not him so much.
Right. I mean, we will still do stuff together if we're working on marriage stuff, couple stuff. We'll do that together.
Yeah.
We still definitely get involved in training folks in the church and things like that. But my studies are pretty intense, and when you combine what I'm doing with that and with church, there's not a lot of time left. I really became a support person. She'd tell me when it was time to record. All right, it's time to record. All right. I mean, and I'd have to read to get caught up. And that's just no way to be partners, honestly. So, we had a conversation about it and said, really, if you're coaching, it's the women that are more interested. And Josh, this is true. Most of us, you talk to guys all the time. Most of us are going to be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. I mean, happy wife, happy life, yada, yada. But what she's doing now is seriously effective. I mean, these women have a serious need. And it's just like what I said before. I mean, I was on the road and she was going through all this stuff at home, and I had no idea. Really. I mean, she would talk about it to me, but she put out the best face on it too. I mean, you didn't always, say, this is just falling apart. You didn't put it that way. And when it was, when it finally became evident that what was, by that point, it is literally, hey, what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Yeah. What do you want to do? I'm just going to, get in that boat with you.
Yeah. So. I mean, so we all know the stats. The stats are really dark for remarried couples as far as the number of couples that get redivorced in the first couple of years. And we just didn't think that we were going to be there at all. But I was miserable. I was really miserable. And I tried to explain it to him, and I couldn't explain it to him. So you really got it. And I got more of it when we went to Virginia, when we went to one of the Family Life Blended summits in Virginia a few years ago. And it was this dawning realization of, oh my gosh, we're not the only ones. And these really are difficult issues that we're dealing with. And so I think that was we were ready for some of that salve because we were really hurting. And it's the only thing, the kids, that's the only thing we fought about. We didn't fight about anything else. And we don't really fight about anything else. No. And but those fights, let me tell you, they made up for the other fights that we didn't have at times, I guess I would say. It was really hard. And I think it's because we think, well, we've been married before, or we're older now, so we know better, so we know we're going to do things differently. But that only takes into consideration us and not all of the transition. And I think it's safe to say that it is trauma. Divorce is trauma. It's trauma for everyone involved. And the kids don't have the words to express it, no matter what their ages are.
Yeah.
I know my daughters got really frustrated from hearing, well, you're older, so it must not be so hard for you, this marriage stuff. And that just wasn't true. It was just different because they were at different stages in their lives. But it was hard. It was very, very hard. So I think no matter what experience we have, if we haven't gone through and done some sort of training and found our people to know, hey, this is actually normal, expect this, and here's a way that you can mitigate some of the hurt before it even happens, that's just what we need to do. We need to get out there and help people and provide services to people. The challenge is that when they're in that starry-eyed love affair phase, love's going to solve it all.
Yeah.
Like they don't listen.
No,
and
we don't
until things get really bad. Yeah.
No.
I've also realized that you mentioned this earlier, Josh. You said, hey, churches don't understand that, if you've been divorced, we're not encouraging divorce. Just because we encourage divorced people to come, we're not encouraging divorce.
Mhm.
I've realized being divorced that it gives me more empathy for the natural couple that's not divorced
Yep.
going through marital struggles,
Yep.
because I can absolutely say to them unqualifiedly, don't go there.
Yeah.
I
right.
can tell you it is hell.
Yeah.
And I can say that with authority,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hell.
I
And
agree
it
with
costs
that.
you a lot of money.
Yeah.
It costs you a lot of money.
It's
Yeah, there's
not
a
worth
reason
it.
why God
Not
doesn't
worth it.
approve of divorce. I mean, it's we live with it forever. We live
Yeah.
with the pain. I mean, I don't want to be separated from my
Mhm.
kids half the time. I don't want to have to deal with my ex and try to make sure that my wife that I have now knows that she's chosen over her. It's a tough thing. Like none of us want to deal with that stuff. So I think that's probably one of the most important things, like you're saying, Bill, is that we have empathy now. And when we are talking to somebody that is in a current marriage that's never been divorced before and they're talking about their struggles, the first thing I get on my face is like, okay, first off, you don't want
Everybody has struggles.
Yeah. You don't want to go there. Trust me, you don't.
Yeah.
You want to do everything you can to save what you have because you don't understand what you're going to have to deal with.
Divorce doesn't fix the struggles; it actually amplifies them.
Magnifies
Like
it.
it's
Right.
Sets it on fire,
Yeah.
pours gasoline on it,
you get many, many more struggles with divorce. Many, many, many more.
Yeah.
And you don't get rid of that person either,
No.
do you? I mean, that's the
Oh,
idea.
No,
No.
you have
No,
less
you don't.
influence over them because you're not married to them anymore, and then they become worse, and you're like, "Dang it,
Right.
I still have to deal with you."
It's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, it's tricky business for sure.
It
So
is.
all that to say, we are
Mhm.
definitely promoting marriage
Mhm.
God's way, and
Yeah.
because we're in this position to know better. I mean, that's when we can
Mhm.
best minister because
Yeah.
we have been there and say,
Yeah.
hey, there are other things that are more important, and just helping couples see that and working with them to focus on those things. So
Yeah,
Well, we know there's not a silver bullet, right? We know that. But if you were going to give your best piece of advice, just the greatest piece of advice that you believe that you have, what would you give and why would you give that piece of advice?
and each of you have to answer.
That's right. Go.
oh, do.
Go first. Okay.
So give to who? Narrow it down to newly married couples or blended couples in general.
You tell me.
Yep.
You tell us. Whatever
I
you
get to boss you
feel.
around.
Yes. Do it up.
Awesome.
You know, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, and my advice to anybody, especially having gone through what we've gone through to this point, is trust God's plan. You're going to go through some tough times. It is built in.
Mhm.
As a Christian, you are going to go through those things, and you have to get to the point where you say, "Yes, Lord, I'll take up this cross,"
Mhm.
because otherwise, you're not going to reach that ultimate place that He wants you to be.
So good. So good.
So I just want to break it down. I always want to make it practical instead of overview. Practical. Pray with your man or pray with your woman every single day.
Absolutely.
Pray together. Pray and guys, for you listening, you praying over your wife, like that's totally sexy, totally intimate, and it's powerful because you are the head of the household.
Yeah.
And I just want to invite you to push past whatever discomfort or fear you may have about praying over your wife and pray over her. I know that God will honor that. So pray together. And what else? I said something else. What else did I say?
You did.
What did I tell you earlier? I said, oh yeah, I want to say pray
And the kids.
and the kids. What did I say? Oh man, this is embarrassing. Well, pray. Clearly, pray is the priority. That's the only one that I can remember.
Josh
but
just
it's
said
the
that
most
yesterday,
powerful
and
one.
I actually talked about it at Celebrate Recovery. last night in the group with all the women, because yesterday I woke up, and I think women experience this a little bit more than men do because we're the more emotional creatures. God designed us that way. And I get tired of women trying to be like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. God designed you that way. You need to be proud of it. So yesterday I woke up and Josh was like, what is the matter? And I'm like, I just don't know. I just am like having a feeling of impending doom today. Like I just am anxious. I have a lot of anxiety for no in particular reason. I just have that feeling, which happens sometimes. And he came out of the kitchen and sat down next to me and prayed over me in that moment. And as the day went on, I did get better. And I shared that last night at Celebrate Recovery with the women, in the women's group, because I'm like, your husband should pray over you. It makes you, God made them the leaders of the home, and there's power in that prayer specifically designed for that way.
That's good. I'm glad you brought that up because that is powerful and it is hard. We're insecure, super insecure about that. And, the last thing I want to do is look and feel and sound, we're not all, seasoned prayer warriors, us guys usually aren't. And so we don't want to sound that way, but I'm glad you're saying this, Jen, because I'm going to encourage the guys, push through that. It's not about, it's not about fumbling over your words. It's about the actions you're taking, and God knows your heart. And so I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought that up.
I would just add to that based on what you just said, Josh. We need to realize something, and that is the day that we live in is not normal. It's not. We are at a different level, and everything is spiritual. I tell people this all the time. Everything is spiritual. There is no normal, go through your day without there not being a spiritual aspect to it. And I think it's more important than ever to connect with God as couples today.
Love it.
I mean, the enemy has just been unleashed,
Agreed.
in ways that we can't even imagine.
Yep.
We feel specifically in Michigan.
We are the wall.
It's kind of dark there, isn't it?
Yeah.
The weather.
We're the wall. Believe it or not, we are the ones who say you won't go any further because we have the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we exercise that. We don't have any authority in ourselves. We have all the authority in the world in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I heard something recently. I read it or I heard it, but it said, a lot of times we believe that we're a physical being with a spirit inside of us, but actually we're a spiritual being
with a body.
With a body. And that is just that little bit of perspective switches. And just like you're saying, Bill, it really tells us that we're really not in control. He is in control. And if we're not tapped into that, our life is just meandering. And we come into problems like blended family issues that are deep and super painful and extremely hard. And that's why the statistics are so dark. But if we're willing, and we're really truly willing to submit to that, the direction of our lives changes in a way that we can't explain. And so I just love how we're ending the show today and talking about this, because I think when it all comes down to it, there is practical things that we can do all day long that can move the needle. But the thing that's truly going to make the difference is understanding who our higher power is and really tapping into the power of Jesus Christ. And so I absolutely love that.
The most cool thing about
and did he remember your second thing? I saw him whisper to you.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
Oh, yeah, he did. He remembered it. Yes, he remembered it. This is why we're a team, because we need each other. Okay. So, remember I told you that I thought, hey, I'm going to try to make nice with his ex-wife and be helpful and all of that. And it didn't work so well. I really wanted control of my home. And I didn't like feeling like a stranger in my own home. And that's how I felt for a long time. And it's because I was forcing things. I was wanting things to be a certain way. And I really didn't understand at all that the kids were struggling. I mean, I knew it intellectually, but it never made it to my heart. Those 18 inches from the head to the heart, it never made it there. And so I didn't sympathize or empathize with them. I was just annoyed that, why don't you get it? Like, this is so simple. Why can't you do X, Y, or Z?
Right.
And why can't you see that they're not doing X, Y, or Z? I mean, I've learned why now. Okay, later, I get it. but I really, the bio parent taking the lead, and they actually do need to step up and take the lead and not be critical of what's gone on when they're not there. But together, you need to set the tone, but the bio parent is the one that needs to share information. So that would be my other practical tip.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Bill remembered. Because that's powerful.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we want to thank you so much for being on here. Please do us a favor and let our audience know where they can find all the wonderfulness you have going on right now.
And where your church is.
Oh.
Yeah, let us know where your church is too.
Our church is in Jefferson City, Missouri, and it is Liberty Road Baptist Church. It's on Liberty Road, which is on the east side of town.
It reminds me of Liberty.
Yeah. Liberty. We definitely use that.
Yeah. I love that it's on Liberty Road. That's so fun. So fun. Yeah. So that's where our church is. And we invite anybody to stop on by as you're coming through. So we're not that far. So if you know where St. Louis is and Kansas City is, we're in the center of the state. So you can just drop on down and say hello. We'd love to have you. Yeah. And if you're looking for something to listen to in relation to the podcast, we actually do have a lot of guys listen to it, even though it is now Bold and Blended Stepmoms. You can find everything at StepFamilyPodcast.com. So if you're looking for a podcast on step families and you Google podcasts on step families, I think we're going to come up. I think you'll find us.
We will make sure to leave a link to your website so people can make sure, without trying to search, they can definitely visit you guys. So we want to thank you so much for being on here. It's awesome. We could sit here and probably talk all night long. We could make this a 17-part series, but we want to be respectful of everybody's listening time too. So we want to thank you guys so very much. So very much. Thank you so much for spending your time and sharing with our audience today.
Yeah, thank you as well. We certainly appreciate and love the work that you're doing. And it's just been a real treat to get to know you more. So thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, guys. What an awesome, fun interview. Was that not so fun?
It was amazing.
It was amazingly
fun. It was
fun.
fantabulous.
It was fantabulistic. It was awesome. We'll make sure to put down in the show notes everything that they talked about today, about all the links. We'll even get the address to their church. So if you are in their neck of the woods, you can stop by and visit.
Just remember, Liberty, Liberty, Liberty.
On Liberty Road, I believe is what it was. But I'll make sure to put it down in the show notes. So we want to thank you so much for being here, right? Being here each and every week. We care. We love you. We want to let you know that we do have a private Facebook group of our own that you can join. It is for Christian couples. Marriages is what we like to focus on in that. So if you want to, let us know. We'll make sure to leave a link down below so you can join that as well. We want to thank you for being here. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Bye.